Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the PS6 collection video. Yes, everyone will be. Management has informed me that the PlayStation 6 is not out yet, so we have to do the PS5 collection video. Now, I haven't voiced this on the channel, but for the people who know me in real life, some of the takes I've given, um, I am not too fond of how Sony has handled the PlayStation 6 lead up, or more so the PS5 as it started to enter its later half. I think a lot of the games that have come out have been phenomenal and been amazing, but it's been no surprise that I'm not the biggest fan of how Sony has moved and operated throughout the PS5's life cycle. And the PS5 has some banger games, right? We're going to be going through some of the games that are in my collection, some of the games I feel are absolutely great, incredible. I've played through a good amount of these, right? Some games, of course, haven't put a single minute into, but there are a lot of games here that I've played, I've beaten, and I absolutely adore. So without further ado, let's jump into it. First off, I've got Tactics Ogre Reborn. Now, this one is a game that I've not jumped into, but my friend Sam, shout out Sam, he really loves Tactics Ogre. I don't know if it's this specific game entirely, but I know that there is a Tactics Ogre game that he rocks with, and I am excited to get into the series primarily because I love turn-based strategy RPGs, so I am always down to play a turn-based strategy RPG, especially from a coveted, well-known franchise such as Tactics Ogre. So Street Fighter 6. Now the cool thing about Street Fighter 6, right? The cool thing about Street Fighter 6 is that I didn't hear that much buzz around Street Fighter 5 after it came out, right? Initially, there was kind of that buzz around Street Fighter 5 because it's Street Fighter, right? And Street Fighter is always going to get that play, that buzz, that go ahead. But Street Fighter 6 was a game that I looked at it and I was like, okay, I don't know who this guy is, but apparently, like, he's new. Luke is like a new character for Street Fighter 6, kind of like ushering in this new age. Ryu's got a beard now. Ken looks homeless. In terms of how I feel about Street Fighter in general as a franchise, I'm not the biggest Street Fighter person, but I have played some Street Fighter games before, right? But Street Fighter 6 has been the Street Fighter game I put the most time into. It's the game that I've enjoyed playing the most. It's a game that I am, good at compared to the rest of my friends. Specifically looking at my Luke, and I'm really excited to eventually play a little bit more Street Fighter 6 than I have been recently. The cool thing about fighting games is that they're very easy to just pick up and play. I haven't played Dragon Ball Fighters in a minute, but even before my last entry or my last time or session with Dragon Ball Fighters, it was also a really long time before the previous one or the one before that, and I still was having an absolute blast. So I feel like it will be the exact same thing with Street Fighter 6 when I pick it up again. But I have played Street Fighter 6. I love Street Fighter 6. That's what I got. Stellar Blade. Now, Stellar Blade is cool to me primarily because at first I was like, "This is the Gooner game. It's the Gooner game," and I'm just not even going to acknowledge this. And that section of the internet, yes, you know what section I'm talking about. And I'm going to be even more specific because I don't want people to go, "Oh yeah, they're clearly talking about the people I don't like." No, I'm talking about the people who engage in gaming discourse and don't play a single minute of any game that comes out in the year that they're engaging in discourse in, or the game that they're actually talking about. They don't play a single minute of it. The Assassin's Creed Shadows, the Stellar Blades, the whatever game people are complaining is woke or cringe or not based or whatever it is. Those people who don't play video games were all over this game because they were just like, "Oh my gosh, yes, we're so back. Look at her," and I'm sitting there like, "Dude, it's a video game. It's a video game." But after Stellar Blade came out, people were like, "Oh no, this is actually pretty solid. Good action game, reminiscent of kind of like the Devil May Cry game design philosophies of like back in the day." So I was like, I kind of really want to check this out. So I got Stellar Blade on sale. I think it was like a Black Friday sale that I ended up getting this game, but I was really, really, really stoked to get this game, primarily because people were saying that it was actually good, and so I was happy that it was actually good. And she even got her own bot in Astrobot. That's how I know that Eve, I think is her name, going up. Eve stocks up. Next up, I've got Skull and Bones, the first quadruple A game. Yes, This game was on sale. This was around the time that I got Metaphor Fantasio. And the thing with Skull and Bones is that I looked at this game and I was like, okay, okay. There's nothing really remarkable about this. I think it's an Ubisoft game. It is. Oh my gosh. Yep. You see it. You see it. So I was like, it's an Ubisoft game. Strike one. There's nothing really remarkable about this. Strike two. It's a pirate game, and I was like, there's not really that many good pirate games. This, if you're a pirate game in general, I feel like you're just cooked, man. I don't know what it is. Like you could be Skull and Bones or Sea of Thieves. I think Sea of Thieves people say it's kind of okay. You could be a One Piece game. You could even be like Pirate 101. I remember when Wizard 101 came out, and that man, I'm not gonna turn this into a Wizard 101 video, but that had the crew jumping. That had the streets lit on fire, ready to go. But Pirate 101 was one of those things where it's like, eh, but yeah, I have not played Skull and Bones. I just like kind of making fun of it a little, but at least I can say before I get my jokes off, so you can know whether to take me seriously or not. Hit not take me seriously. Um, that I have not played Skull and Bones, but I think it's funny because something a game being the first quadruple A game and like just kind of being this is just like I don't know, man. I don't know. Next up, I've got Silent Hill 2. Yes, dystopian society on Silent Hill. Silent Hill 2. I talked about this a little bit in my original Xbox video, but Silent Hill 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. I played the remake before I played the original. I love the remake anyway. Just the vibes, man. Come on! What are we talking about? Good vibes, man. Just, I'm not really a horror person. Let's just get that out of the way. But like, when you're playing as James Sunderland, man, going through this really run down, misty, I see that place in my dreams, Silent Hill, just absolute banger of a game, man. I don't really know what else. It just kind of speaks to my soul. Normally, I consider myself to be an analytical person. Like, I'd be able to kind of give you like a good, like, laundry list of reasons as to why I like something, but like Silent Hill 2 just kind of speaks to me. Is the combat a little clunky? I mean, yeah, but it's a horror game, so it is what it is. Like I don't really think there's many horror games where the combat's that good, unless people who are horror fanatics want to correct me. But Silent Hill 2, man, it's good, man. It's really, really good. I really want to finish my playthrough of the original, but Silent Hill 2, the remake, I love this game primarily because it really got me into the original to the point where I was like, you know what? I don't care that it's 180 smackaroos. I got to get this game and I got to play this game, man, on original hardware. And I'm really glad I did. So thank you, Silent Hill 2 Remake, for being the catalyst of greatness. And so I've got Sandland. Now, people said Sandland was surprisingly better than they expected it to be. I don't know if people said good, but it's got art by Akira Toriyama. So I was like, okay, that's pretty nice. In a game that's not Dragon Quest and like Chrono Trigger, but I mean Chrono Trigger was like a one-off standoff thing. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm interested. So I haven't played Sandland. I want to play Sandland eventually, but there's nothing that really draws me to playing Sandland at a given time. You see, let me give y'all a look into my psyche, right, in terms of how I select what video game I'm going to play, right? Normally, I look at how I'm feeling right now. I'm like, okay, am I feeling like, kind of turning my brain off? Am I feeling like really digging into like the meat and potatoes of like the mechanics and the system that they got going on? What exactly is going on right now? And if I'm in the mood for an RPG, right? Oftentimes I'm gonna go for something that's maybe like a little more popular, right? Or maybe something that's like really at the forefront of my mind. For instance, something like Unicorn Overlord has been at the absolute forefront of my mind recently. And I've not been able to play it primarily because I have like nowadays 30 minutes to play a game in a given day tops. And if I miss that window of 30 minutes of free time in that day, then it's cooked. It's over. It's wraps. Unless it's something like Slay the Spire, where I can basically like play that and like also do like other work at the same time, kind of. But if it's not something like that, then it's over. It's cooked. It's wraps. But uh, Sandland just is not one of those games that comes to the forefront of my mind oftentimes. So I really want to get into it. I really want to dig into it eventually, but I have not played Sandland and I'm sorry. Resident Evil Village. Now, the thing about RE Village, and I talked about this in the Series X video, so I'll kind of keep this short, is that I saw a friend play this, shout out Luke, and it just really uninspired me, or not really. It's thrown me off from playing the game myself. So that's the whole reason why I haven't played Resident Evil Village yet, but I will eventually. But I wish I kind of got it closer to around that time that like people were really talking about it, because that was when it truly had its moments. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And I actually got a funny story about this one. So the cool thing about Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is that it was my second Ratchet and Clank game. My first one was the remake, 2016 remake, and I was like, "This is really good." I'm glad I finally played a Ratchet and Clank game, because growing up as a Sly Cooper fan, I was like, you know what? I probably would like Ratchet and Clank and Jack and Daxter, but I haven't played those two games, so I'll just kind of leave that alone. But the thing with Rift Apart is that I played that game, I think maybe like end of 2021, right? And that was like around the time that like the new COVID strand was coming out. So the new COVID strand dropped, right? And I was like, oh man, I'm not really feeling too hot. So I went over to one of those like CVS like drive-through pharmacies where like they'd be like, oh, like, you know, we can like give you a COVID test like in your car. You don't have to come out. Like it's all safe. It's all, you know, safe distance. What was that thing they called it again? Um, what was it again? It was like social distance. Yeah, it was all social distance, right? And so I was like, okay, cool. And then I came back home, and then like by the end of the night, they were like, "Yeah, you got COVID, buddy." I was like, oh, okay. So I was like quarantined in my room, right? You know, my grandma was bringing me soup. It actually was really nice. And I had my PS5 on, right? And I knew I had Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, you know, just sitting on my shelf, not played yet. And so I was like, you know what? People say this game is a banger. They say that it truly takes advantage of the PS5. Sony said that this game is only possible on the PS5. And you know, if you go to Steam and you type in Ratchet and Clank, you can actually find this game on Steam. So I think they were lying. I don't know. That's my opinion though. I think they were lying, but I don't think a corporation would do that. So I played Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and it was phenomenal. I bought into the hype that this is really only possible on the PS5, because it felt like I was playing a Pixar movie. Whoa, and like I'm kind of conflicted. I guess I'll use this time to talk a little bit about this current state of Ratchet and Clank, because like as I played through Ratchet and Clank One, I'm like, this game is really funny, and I enjoyed playing through it a lot. And I'm like, wow, this is like really nice. But the thing with Ratchet and Clank One is that a lot of the things in there wouldn't really fly nowadays. Not because people are sensitive, but because like some stuff really only is funny in the time period that it's in. You know what I mean? Like, you know, making like a robot parody of like Britney Spears like may not like land in a time where people don't really care that much about celebrities anymore. Most people don't care that much about celebrities anymore. So I think that Rift Apart is like a good step in the right direction for Ratchet and Clank as a franchise. I know it's been a little like, you know, sanitized lately, but like I feel that like, you know, I like the game still, and I feel like the gameplay now is and it always has been really the core focus. Ratchet and Clank's gameplay for a platformer was pretty innovative at the time, just having a gun and shoot or a run and shoot, you know, platformer. I think that Rift Apart's gameplay has really become the stronger suit. You know, minus the, you know, if you put aside the Disney esque story of like friendship and relying on your friends and all that jazz. But yeah, Rift Apart, good game, man. I highly recommend people play it. If they have not played it yet, you will have a fun time, and you will walk away from that and go, that was a fun video game. So, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Now, I have not played Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I talked a little bit in, I think, my original Xbox video, my relationship with Prince of Persia, how I found out about the series when I was living in good old Nigeria. But Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is a game that I really wanted to get to, primarily because I was skeptical about it, because I was like, whoa, this is an Ubisoft game. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. And like, I think it's a roguelike too. And then I was like, I really don't know, because for, I guess, context for people, I'm not really the biggest roguelike person. I tried Hades. I bounced off of it. You know, I'm playing Slay the Spire now. But when I played Slay the Spire initially, I bounced off of that too. So it's just one of those things where I'm like, I don't really know if this is for me. But I'm gonna keep trying, of course, and you know, give each roguelike that people say is really good my go ahead. So I planned on getting to the I planned on getting to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown this year, but with how busy I am, especially between the channel and just everything else in general, I really don't foresee that happening. But we'll see. So who knows? I really think a lot of my years are sometimes shaken up by the fact where it's like, did I play this banger, and this banger? No, but I played these really three obscure games in my catalog that I really wanted to get to, and I think that's what matters. Persona 3 Reload, man, we reloaded. So I started P3 last year, right before I left on vacation, and I really enjoyed what I played out of Reload. I thought that it still kind of retained a little bit of the charm of like the PS2 titles and like kind of like how it was like laid out and presented, but also showed, hey, the DNA of a game that was made after Persona 5, swept the world off its feet, right? So Persona 3 Reload is a game that I want to get back to, but I know, of course, with its 60 to 80 hour runtime, that like I'm not 100% down to get towards it. But again, I'm no stranger to games that are that long, and the games that are that long currently have a 2 for 2 track list or hit list when it comes to being my favorite games of all time. So hopefully, I feel that way about Persona 3 once I'm done. Next up, I've got Pac-Man World Repack. Oh man, talk about a game I really bounced off of. I thought I'd enjoy this game more than I did, but I really couldn't find myself to like continue playing Pac-Man World Repack. I don't know if the original Pac-Man World is better. I don't think I'll be buying the original Pac-Man World, if I'm being frank. I don't know. I thought I like the Pac-Man platformers a little more because the Pac-Man arcade game is like it's whatever. I recognize it's legendary. I know it's fun. I played it and I do believe it's fun. But like it's an arcade game. Now in 2026, the big 2026, where gaming as a medium has evolved so much from the 70s and the 80s. I really, I have to look at these things as like relics of the past. So when I look at like the Pac-Man platformers, that's where my interest with Pac-Man as a player, like as a character and a franchise, really like jumps in, right? It's where it really like gets there. So I played Pac-Man World for a little bit, bounced off of it, didn't really care that much about it, and I don't really see myself coming back to pick up this game later. So one thing I want to say is that yeah, I'm a little disappointed, but I don't know if anyone else feels similarly. So I've got Monster Hunter Wilds. Whew, we wildin' here. So I played a little bit of Monster Hunter Wilds, and I know everyone was freaking out about the gameplay, the story, not Gemma. No one was freaking out about Gemma whatsoever. And I really liked Monster Hunter Wilds because I thought that the gameplay was solid. It was regular Monster Hunter. I played Rise before. I've played like demos of like 4 Ultimate or whatever on my 3DS when I was younger. But Rise was like my first like full on Monster Hunter game, right? And I put a decent amount of time into that, but not a ton. I wouldn't really call myself a Monster Hunter fan. I really play it more so when like my friends are feel like playing it, and I guess like I've had a little bit of an urge to go back to it and see like if I can evaluate or like really feel out or identify what my relationship with Monster Hunter is. But as of right now, like I personally think that it's just whatever. It's just whatever. And I put even less time into Wilds than I did into Rise, so that kind of sucks. But now I don't think people like Rise or Wilds. I don't think people like Wilds for some reason. It's weird. But yeah, man. I also don't think I'm gonna get back to that one. I'm gonna keep it frank. Oh, but one thing I will say though is that I'm actually really surprised that Wilds is like one of the best selling games of last year. So it's kind of crazy to me. But anywho, Marvel Spider-Man 2. Whew. Now, the thing with Spider-Man 2, right, is that when I finished that game, I was like, this is gas. 9 out of 10 at the absolute minimum. But after I sat with it for a little bit, I was like, I don't know. So, because when I finished Spider-Man, I was like, whoa, that was crazy. I don't think I assigned a score to it, but I was like, that was wild. I love that game. I played that game again, and then I played that game again. I played that game 3 times, and I did the little DLC side story thing with it too. I love the original Marvel Spider-Man 1. Insomniac, out of the park, man. They just cooked. But Marvel Spider-Man 2, I don't know. I just looked at it and I was like, I don't think this is going to age well. I don't know. Like I was like, I think a lot of the cool things about Marvel Spider-Man 1 and Miles Morales should have came together into like one really awesome and dope package. That's what I would have inferred off the cover, right? But I think that ultimately I was left kind of like wanting at the end, where I was like, oh man, like I feel like I should want to play this game more, but I don't really. I don't know. It's weird. The symbiote arc was phenomenal. I still think that was a really good symbiote arc. I don't care what anyone says. I think maybe they fumbled it a little bit with Venom. I don't want to give any spoilers for people who haven't played it, but and also Craven. I really feel like Craven should have been like a bigger part of the game. I don't think that's a spoiler. I'm just telling you that Craven may not be as big a part of the game as you may think he may think he is. But Spider-Man 2 is one that I think on paper is kind of like a Tears of the Kingdom Breath of the Wild situation, except like Tears of the Kingdom is definitely way closer in quality than Spider-Man 2 is to Spider-Man 1. But I would say the Spider-Man 2, on paper, the mechanics are kind of like a little more fleshed out and like kind of better, but I still would kind of prefer to just play Spider-Man 1 just because its scope is a little smaller, so, and more refined, I guess. Speaking of, I got Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now, this game I got with my PS5, like everybody else did. Got it. This is a true banger Christmas game because I remember playing through that intro level when I got my PS5 around Christmas time, and I was like, man, this feels awesome. So feels the joys of getting a new PlayStation console around Christmas time are just so unmatched, man. I got my PS5 around Christmas. I got my PS4 for Christmas on Christmas Day. I had to buy my own PS3. PS2, I think that was like a little different. And I never owned a PS1 in my childhood, but I got a PS1 later on. So Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales is it's a good game, right? It's a short game, so there's not really much to like gather from it. But I will say that like if you're looking for something really short, like a really good Spider-Man adventure, like you just want to play a Spider-Man game and lock in, strap in, and have a really fun time, the Spider-Man Miles Morales is definitely the game for you, man. It is. It's gonna ad- adhere to everything you want. I'll just put it that it's gonna adhere to everything that you want. Okay, you understand what I'm saying, bro? Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Now, I played the Lego Star Wars games right back when I was younger. I hadn't even watched Star Wars when I played those, but I'd watched the Clone Wars, and the Clone Wars is still the best piece of Star Wars media, just bar none. Facts. I don't really think this is a controversial take. I think a lot of people kind of feel like Star Wars is carried by nostalgia. I say a lot of people, but that may not actually be the case. So I don't know who I'm going to anger with that. But the Skywalker Saga, to deflect from that, the Skywalker Saga is a collection, of course, of all the episode 1 through 9 games. And I have not played the Skywalker Saga, but it's mostly because I look at it and go like, all right, like I need to be in the mood to experience Star Wars content. And I am 99.9999999% of the time not in that mood. So the Skywalker Saga unfortunately stays on the shelf. I know, it sucks, but I don't call the shots, man. I mean, I do, but like, let's just ignore that. The Last of Us Part Two remastered, another game I got because it was on sale. And I have played a little bit of The Last of Us Part One. I've not finished The Last of Us Part One. One of my most controversial takes is that I feel like The Last of Us impacted gaming for the worse as opposed to the better. More negatives and positives. But again, take the whoa wow. Take the opinion of someone who has not completed the game not seriously. Again, just don't take me seriously, bro. But I look at this and I'm like, okay, remastering a 2020 game, because I think this is I don't know if part two came out in 2020 or like before that, but like remastering like a game that like either way it came out in the past like 3 years when the remaster dropped is like, dude, what are we doing, man? What are we doing? Um, and so I was just looking at this like I don't get what the point of this is. But I guess this is like the definitive way to play The Last of Us Part Two. So if you're looking for that, then go out get yourself a PS5 and Last of Us Part Two, or you can just get a PS4 and Last of Us Part Two. I don't know. Either way, I really think there's not that much that's changed here. But hey, if anyone wants to correct me, let me know. Let me know. Next up, I've got Horizon Forbidden West. Ooh, look at that. The special edition. Yeah, it slides out too, man. Let me see if I can pull some of this stuff out real quick. Oh. So we got a steelbook, right? That steelbook looks so cool, man. And we also have the art of Horizon Forbidden West, published by Dark Horse. Um, and the cool thing about Horizon is that I think it's utterly and completely mid. I think it's completely mid. And I really don't get how this franchise has become so popular, but I guess it's mostly because it's solid enough that I think it could become popular, enter the popular space. I tried my absolute hardest to get into Zero Dawn, dude. I'm telling you, I started that game up 4 to 5 times. I was like, there has to be something I'm missing, bro. There has, because I just bounced off this game so hard. When I got my PS4 for Christmas, right, and I was like, oh my gosh, finally, for the first time since the PS2 days, I have a PlayStation again. Let's go. I asked for Horizon Zero Dawn. I was like, that's the game I want. That's the only game I want, actually. Horizon Zero Dawn. That is it. So I popped this thing open. I'm excited to play it. I got my drinks. I'm sitting there cozied up. I'm ready, man. I'm ready. And then I look at, or I play it some more. There's not really anything I looked at and was like, oh, okay, I'm done. But then I played it a little bit more and I was like, I'm not really feeling it. I'm not really feeling it. So yeah, so I got Forbidden West, and it's actually I have a really funny story. So my brother, he got uh, Forbidden West from a roommate of his, right? And was like, oh, like yo, he was asking me, he was like, do you want this copy of this game? And he was like, yeah, you just don't want it. He's like, oh no, I don't. And he got it with his PS5, and he still didn't want a copy of Horizon Forbidden West. And I just thought that was funny. But I saw this at a convention. It was a cool $45. I'm a sucker for special editions. I'm a sucker for steelbooks. This thing was like, okay, Oscar, this is a no-brainer. So I got it, and I'm excited to eventually try out Forbidden West because I want to at least say, like, I tried it out. Okay. And the story in Horizon is nothing. It's nothing for me to really care that much about. I watched a whole breakdown of the story because I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna beat this game. Let me just do this now. And lo and behold, yeah, Gran Turismo 7. So my story with Gran Turismo 7 is that every single time I try and play this game, it takes up like 90% of my hard drive. And I'm like, dude, I don't just want Gran Turismo 7 on here. And I get it's like the most realistic driving simulator. And it's like, a game where you could see like the speck of dust on your Corvette. But I'm like, dude, I just want to play a racing game. I heard Gran Turismo is really good. Even the Gran Turismo games on the PS1, for some reason, are just these behemoths of games, and I'm like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. So, hopefully one day I get to actually like play this thing for more than like 20 minutes, and I'll go, all right, like I like having other games on my PS5, so I'm gonna have to delete this thing. And so every single time I feel like playing Gran Turismo 7, which is very often actually, I very much often feel like playing GT7. I can't play GT7 because I have to download this thing for 20 hours. And then when I'm done downloading it, I play it for like the 1 hour that I want to play it. And then I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm done now. But I also want to play like Ghost of like Tsushima. So like now I have to delete Gran Turismo 7 from my PS5 so I can put the 9 games that are actually meant to be on there on my PS5. Rant over. Oh, this just I'm sorry, that just sucks. Gaming companies, get better optimizing your games, please. God of War Ragnarok. Let's talk about an absolute banger of a video game. God, sorry. Uh, God of War Ragnarok is one of the greatest video games of all time. Dare I say, it is better than God of War 2018. Now I know that's blasphemous to some people. I'm having a hard time caring, to be honest. Uh, I love Ragnarok, man. I think the fact that a lot of people think that it's a rush ending or like the ending is like, oh, okay, like I really think it would have benefited by another game. Game development takes forever. I don't really know if I'm patient enough to wait for that. I'm just gonna keep it a bean. So you can be like, oh, like you're just not patient to wait for months. It's like, yeah, like it's fine to admit that. I'm just not patient enough to wait for like the conclusion in that arc. And I feel like they concluded it very well. I like what they did overall with Atreus, Kratos' arc, Freya's arc. Um, a lot of stuff was good in here, man. I'm gonna just keep it a bean. It's been a long time since I played Ragnarok, but like I think the conflict too with Thor and Odin is just like an absolute banger. Um, yeah, man, I love God of War Ragnarok. it's gas. It's gas. And I think it made me feel even more emotions than God of War 2018. Hey, I cried at that ending scene. I'm not gonna lie. Seeing Kratos see what he saw, I cried, man. I cried. But yeah, just banger of a game. Next up, though, I've got Ghost of Yote, another banger of a game. Now, I remember when Ghost of Yote was about to come out, and people were like, "Oh, yeah, you already know." Anyway, it's funny because I was talking to my friends, and they were just like, "Why is Ghost of Yote just getting so much controversy?" I'm like, "So, if you see right here, you will see that Atsu is a woman. And in gaming terms, that's a no-no. You could never have a woman protagonist, especially when she's doing cool things. No, no, sir. So of course people were hating on Ghost of Yote. And then when Ghost of Yote came out, right, eventually I was like, all right, like I am really rocking with this game, but I put it down for a second. Then I picked it back up again, and I put in 15 hours and I had not even beaten a single one of the Yote 6. Also, funny thing about that name, it's just kind of funny how this is now the second time in a Sucker Punch game where they've been like, all right, like, we have this group of villains, and it's a revenge story. Uh, let's see. Let's name them after a thing, and then how many people are in the group. I think the Phoenix Five and the Yote Six should like collab or something. Drop like a diss track on like both Sly and Atsu. No, okay, cringy. Oh, okay, never mind. Let me move forward. Uh, so Ghost of Yote is a really good game. If you couldn't tell, my opinion was on it. I love the side quests. I love Atsu as a character. I think the whole like shifting between like the past and the present is like a really dope thing because like it really symbolizes how Atsu's trapped like in between like being stuck in the past and stuck in the present and like all these different things. I was about to say another thing that was going to be a spoiler, but yeah. Anyway, love this game. I really want to get back to it and actually finish it because right now I've only beaten one member of the Yote Six. I'm working on like the Oni, I think, so the second member of the Yote Six that I'm going for because I think you can attack him in like any order aside from like Lord Sakai or whatever. No, not Lord Sakai. Um, what's his name again? Oh my gosh. Lord Saito. There we go. Aside from Lord Saito. So yeah, I really want to get back to it. And so I've got Forspoken. Speaking of another game that was hated on because you guessed it. But people said this game also just isn't good. So that also is something that has gravitated me away from it. But I want to try it out. Try it out for myself, see if it's actually good or not. I do not know a single thing about Forspoken except that like it has cringy dialogue or whatever. That's what people are saying. So I really want to get to Forspoken and like just see what's up. What's up? Hey, Forspoken, what's good with you? How's it hanging? Okay. Final Fantasy 16. Now, this was my brother's first Final Fantasy game. He loved it. He was like, "This is a banger. People love this game." Clive is voiced by Ben Starr. What else could you want, man? But I have not played this game, and I really want to play this game eventually. But I made a promise to myself that my first Final Fantasy games are going to be Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 10, right? Then eventually I want to get to Final Fantasy 9, right? And then after Final Fantasy 9, I think I maybe want to hit up one of the like pixelated ones, maybe like Final Fantasy 4. I don't know, right? But I think Final Fantasy 16 will be like right after that. Maybe Final Fantasy 10 too, but people don't talk about 10 2 that much, so like I don't know. But Final Fantasy 16 is definitely up there. It's up there on my list in terms of what to get to next. And the remake. So there's a whole lot of Final Fantasy I want to get to before 16. That's kind of like the main conundrum I'm running into. But I've heard that it's really good. So I'm going to get to Final Fantasy 16 eventually, okay? Okay. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. Speaking of the remake, now, before I used to be a hater of Final Fantasy 7 Remake and the remake trilogy they're trying to do. I was like, boo, everyone, go buy PS1s and play Final Fantasy 7. I genuinely, and eventually, I kind of realized that, like, okay, like, I'm being a little pretentious and I'm expecting people to really just engage with media that, like, is 30 years, younger than them or whatever. Like, it's okay if people want to play the remake or the version of Final Fantasy VII that was really designed to be played in the big 2020 or 2025. Like, it's okay, right? And so I looked at this and I was like, all right, let me, look into Final Fantasy VII remake. My brother actually got me Final Fantasy VII Rebirth for Christmas, so I was like, oh, okay, cool. So now I have an incentive to play remake eventually and then play Rebirth and kind of just see what I think about all that. So I'm really looking forward to it. That's all I gotta say. And so I've got Elden Ring Night Rain. As you can see, if the light hits it properly, it's still in its wrapping and its packaging. That means I've not played it, but I have friends who really are enjoying Night Rain right now, and I really am. I'm really, really hoping to enjoy Night Rain. Uh, there's not much to really say after that. Elden Ring just has this huge legacy. It's just insane how much people love Elden Ring, and I want to give it to due justice by at least giving it a shot, especially something like Night Ring too. So next up, I've got this guy at 7. Now I didn't know they were already up to 7 games in this franchise. All my Disgaea games are scattered across all my different platforms, as if you can see through like my PSP video and like my I think DS video. It's scattered across so many different things. So yeah, I want to get to this Gaia franchise. There's nothing else to really say about it. I haven't heard anything in particular about 7 specifically, but Disgaea, it's gonna happen. It's going to happen. Demon Souls. Now, I remember when the PS5 first came out, and people were like, "There's nothing to play on here." Some people say there's still nothing to play on the PS5. I'm not going to push back on that necessarily, but Demon Souls was there, right? And even though it's a remake of a really old FromSoft game, I still think that it's worth trying out because I don't think that many people play Demon Souls anyway. So you might as well go over there and try out Demon Souls for yourself. Now, if I tried out Demon Souls, what do you think? What do you think? Deathloop. Now, I was really interested in Deathloop's concept when it first came out, right? But eventually I realized, like, is that enough to sustain the game? Is that really going to be enough to, like, get me to put this into my console and, like, press start, right? And I eventually I determined that no, I don't think it really will be. So eventually I want to get to Deathloop, at least try it out, and be like, all right, like, if this thing doesn't hook me, then it's straight up an abandon. Like, I'm done. But if it does hook me, then like that'd be kind of cool. So, but as of right now, I've not played Deathloop, and I don't plan on playing Deathloop soon. But eventually, before I leave this mortal realm, it will probably happen. Maybe Dead Space. Now, the Dead Space games, right? I didn't know that they were like a PS3 series, right? Until a friend told me, right? Sam, shout out Sam, and he was like, "Yeah, like Dead Space is like this is like a remake of the original Dead Space." I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know that." So I do want to get to the Dead Space games eventually. Sorry, I do want to get to the Dead Space games eventually, but I'm not going to start with the Dead Space games on the PS3. I'm going to start with the one on the PS5 because I'm a product of my time. College football 25. Now, I remember when College Football 25 came out, people were like, whoa, it's the first college football game in like, I don't even know how long. I didn't play the last one. So I was like, whoa, it's the first college football game in a minute. And yo, my friends, shout out Ryan was just like, yo, like, I'm so excited for this. We're going to get a league together and everything. It's going to be so dope. And I was like, okay, bet. And I played it for like a good week and I was like, wait a minute, I remembered I'm not really that into football. So I was like, oh, okay, I think I'm good. But it was a fun time initially. So the My Career, or what its version of what My Career was kind of solid too. I liked it. It was good. So I got to uh, dunk on people with Ohio State. Ohio State's good, but like it was just kind of fun to just keep doing that. Um, there's not much to say about College Football 25, bro. I'm just gonna keep it a beat with you. But I enjoyed the moments this game created. That's all I have to say. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Man, we going to war. We really going to war. So Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. I remember when I would I used to talk to my friend John, shout out John, about a game that we could play outside of 2K, right? He'd be like, man, we got to find something else to play outside of 2K because all we do is play 2K. So, the ball and gun part, let's just aim for the gun part. Let's play a Call of Duty game. And he had already been in Call of Duty for a minute, but I hadn't. And so I was like, oh, okay, like, maybe eventually, but like not now. So eventually, I saw this game on sale and I was like, you know what? This looks like a cool premise too. I am gonna play Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Let's do this, right? And so I got Cold War, right? And I played it for a little bit and I suck at Call of Duty, man. I'm really bad at Call of Duty. Like, I think I'm way better at shooters, like when I have like a mouse and keyboard. But even then, I'm not good. But when I'm with a controller, dude, I might as well be a toddler on the sticks, bro. It's bad. So needless to say, that didn't last for very long. And eventually, we were just like, let's just go back to 2K. But I think it's just kind of, I think it's nice that I finally got a chance to like play a Call of Duty game, at least try and like really get into it. But did I like have an amazing, spectacular time? Not necessarily, but I had a time that was kind of memorable. So I guess that's what matters. Black Myth Wukong. As you can see here, it's still in its packaging. So I've not played Black Myth Wukong. I like dunking on Black Myth Wukong primarily because a lot of people, kind of got key jingled around, and and they were like, "Oh my gosh, this game looks so amazing! How did this not win Game of the Year over the game I'm about to show you right now?" And I was like, "Dude, come on, man. Like, a game is not just graphics. It's not just, oh wow, pretty colors. It's not just like, oh, this is so cinematic. Like, when did gaming become that, right? And I don't want to rant about, the state of the medium or whatever, but I still think that Black Myth Wukong could be a good game. I don't know, but I feel like a lot of people latched onto it in an annoying way, and I hate when people use like, oh, the fan base is annoying to discredit, a piece of media, because I have pieces of media that I love so much that the fan base is always discredited. Across from me right now is my My Hero Academia poster. But still, though, um, it's one of those things where when you use it to put down other games, then I have to just feel like, come on, man, you're a Black Myth fan. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Next up, I've got Astro Bot, right? Whew! One of the greatest platformers I have ever played. I think the cool thing about Astrobot is that it kind of like changed up my entire brain chemistry and changed up how I view like looking at and like ranking games to the point where I was like, you know what? Like, if this makes me happy, who cares about anything else? Honestly, I was like, literally, who cares about anything else? Because when you have an interactive medium like gaming, right? Like, people have things like their comfort shows or comfort movies. Sometimes it's like, you know what? I like the fact I just rescued the Ratchet bot. I like the fact that I just saw Haichin or whatever from Tekken. I like this. This is, yes, this is dope. But Astrobot is also just more than that, because it is a celebration of gaming culture as a whole. It is this just sign that, like, yes, even though gaming has gone through all these different annals where we've branched out into different genres and branched out into different audiences and spaces, and how so many people nowadays are gamers, how gaming has become this industry that is so huge and profitable, that we still can focus on the root cause, which is having fun. Oftentimes, a lot of these games that are doing these big things, like these cinematic masterpieces, they're telling these phenomenal stories, like The Last of Us. So I've heard, like, they still are focusing sometimes on that aspect of like, are you enjoying yourself? Asking the player, are you enjoying yourself? And when we can say, yes, I really am enjoying myself, it is a blast, and it's a feeling that you cannot replicate. I love Astrobot for just reminding me of that, and that alone. And it's just, I love Astrobot so much. I'm sorry. I don't care if you think that some other game should have won in 2024. Uh, it is what it is, man. And it's crazy too, because the game I'm about to show off next is the game that I think should have won in 2024, but I played it after the 2024 Game Awards, and so I didn't think that at the time, but now I do, and I'm really excited to jump into this game. I think it might deserve its own video, but I don't even know if I can really do this game justice in the way that other people around YouTube have. And that game is Metaphor Refantasio. Now, Metaphor Fantasio is my favorite video game of all time. On a good day, it is my favorite video game of all time. On some days, it's Fire Emblem Three Houses. On, like, I guess a bad day, it's Sly 3, but like, Metaphor Fantasio is 100% my favorite video game of all time. I love Metaphor. And it's crazy too, because as I mentioned, I bounced off of, or I don't think I mentioned this primarily, but like, I bounced off of Metaphor when I first played it. And then I came back to it. And from there, it was just nothing but straight Zoom. I was so addicted and entrenched in this game. It was ruining just like the obligations I had outside of like like work. I was like, oh, like, I'm playing Metaphor, and people would go like, dude, like, we haven't seen you in like a minute. I'm like, I'm playing Metaphor Fantasio, like, just the amazing stuff it tackles, like, in terms of racism in a fantasy world, democracy in a fantasy world. Luis Guillaburn is one of the greatest characters just of all time, low key, at least to me. just with how as a villain, he's never really, supplanted. Like this may be like a tiny spoiler, but please bear with me, like because at first I thought that he was gonna get like supplanted by like another villain, and he wouldn't be the actual villain. Maybe we'd be fighting like God or something, but that never happened, and I was so happy about that because every single time he was on screen, he just captivated my attention, and I just I had never felt that way about a villain before. Actually, like I'm keeping it a bean. Like, and it just playing metaphor made me so excited for the future of not just the medium, but like I guess just like fantasy fiction as a whole. Like I got so fantasy pilled after I played metaphor that like I started really getting into D&D, and I started really getting into like storytelling and like world building and like art. Like I started doing art again. Like, and it's just metaphor is like the main thing that like really brought me towards that. One of the twists that happened in the middle of the game brought me to tears. I started crying of a twist. It wasn't an emotional twist or anything, but it was just was something that like I was like, wow. You ever have a moment in a piece of fiction or a work of fiction where you're like, he's just like me for real? Like it's just is, oh my gosh. I'm starting over my words, but Metaphor Fantasio is phenomenal. And I'd say it's a game where like, dude, like please play this game if you know it's up your alley. If you know that like you don't mind playing a strategy RPG. If you know you don't mind playing a game that's like 80-ish, 70-ish hours long, 90-ish hours long. If you want to do all the side content, I did all the side content, and like it is crazy because I've throughout this entire channel, I've gone through games where I'm like, oh, I haven't played this, I haven't played that. I bounce off of this, I bounce off of that. But like Metaphor Fantasio is a game that like I damn near enjoyed nearly 100% of my time playing it, and that is just what gaming is all about, man. Finding a game that like makes you go, yes, this is it. Like this is it. And it's funny too because Astronaut also made me feel that way in terms of like, yes, this is it. And then you you search for that game every single year. I have that game for every single year I've been playing video games where I go like, yes, this is it. Like, and it's awesome, man. It's so dope. And I don't want to make this video any longer than it is now, but like Metaphor Fantasio, man. What a video game. Please do yourself a favor and play this game. But without further ado, that will be my PS5 collection. The PlayStation 5 has been a system that has felt underwhelming at times, but I still believe that it is probably like the second best PlayStation console that has ever come out, solely because of the breadth of titles it has and the pushes that they've made in terms of making it this all-inclusive, kind of almost the PS4 but perfected in a way, has really made me feel comfortable in that assessment. But without further ado, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time.